Hello, I'm going to demonstrate a very simple chemical reaction and how you can determine the percent yield of that reaction. Very simple reaction to do. It involves the decomposition of hydrogen peroxide. I'm using 3% hydrogen peroxide that I got from Walmart. I put 100 milliliters of it in the soda bottle. To catalyze the reaction, I'm going to use yeast. I put the yeast in a test tube, and the test tube will eventually be inverted and the reaction will be catalyzed by the yeast. Yeast is a very effective catalyst of this reaction. I've weighed the whole thing. I'm going to keep the cap on initially. And when you keep the cap on, all of the products of the reaction stay in the bottle and the mass won't change, illustrating conservation of mass during a chemical reaction. But then I'm going to let the oxygen come off, and I'm going to weigh the bottle again. I think I mentioned I weighed it initially. I'm going to weigh it again after maybe 10 or 15 minutes. And from the weight change, I'll have the mass change. I'll have the mass of oxygen that was produced. And from the mass of the oxygen and the stoichiometry of the reaction, I can tell what the percent yield is. And we'll do that later. Okay, so let's start the reaction. You can see a lot of bubbles forming. Okay, I can hear the sound of the bubbles. And it really won't build up much pressure, but one could demonstrate that the mass doesn't change when you keep the cap on very tightly. There might be a slight leak, so you have to be careful. You might tape it. And now I'm going to release, and I think you can hear the oxygen coming off. So I'm going to wait about 10-15 minutes and mass this bottle again, and then in a second video I will go through the calculation of determining the percent yield of the reaction. As I said, I'm going to assume that there's 3 grams of hydrogen peroxide, 100 milliliters of 3%. It's going to be 3 grams. It's not that accurate, but as I said, you could do a titration and determine the exact amount. So thank you for your attention. It's still reacting. I can hear it. And in the next video, we'll go through the calculation with the data to determine the percent yield.